Her Excellency, Ms. Deborah Lyons, Ambassador of Canada in Israel, Mr. Avner Shalev, Chairman of the Yad Vashem Directorate, Ms. Dorit Novak, Director General of Yad Vashem, Ms. Gail Asper, President of the Asper Foundation, Mr. Moses Levy, Executive Director of the Asper Foundation, Mr. Shaya Ben Yehuda, Director of the International Relations Division, Yad Vashem Directors and colleagues, Holocaust survivors, ladies and gentlemen. We are assembled in the Yad Vashem Synagogue, a memorial to the numerous synagogues that were destroyed in the Holocaust. Behind me stands a Torah Ark brought here from Berlad, Romania, and around us you can see Torah Arks in Judaica from synagogues all over Europe, whose members were rounded up, deported, and murdered. Some of the artifacts that you see here were taken by the deportees in their wandering from place to place during the Shoah. What we see here is a small remnant of that which was miraculously saved. Each remnant tells the story of a community. Each artifact has its own narrative. The context is one of death and destruction, but the narrative is ultimately about survival and the rebuilding of Jewish life. Avner Shalev was born in Jerusalem. During the Yom Kippur War, he served as bureau head of the Israeli Defense Forces Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General David Elazar, and subsequently as the Chief Education Officer of the IDF. Avner Shalev later served as Director of Israel's Cultural Authority. Since 1993, he has been the Chairman of the Yad Vashem Directorate, leading a comprehensive program to meaningfully teach and commemorate the Holocaust in the 21st century. Prioritizing education, he founded Yad Vashem's International School for Holocaust Studies. He also conceived and established Yad Vashem's museums complex, including the Holocaust History Museum, for which he serves as chief curator, brought about an ongoing technological revolution at Yad Vashem, and led the implementation of his visionary plan for Yad Vashem's enhanced and expanded Mount of Remembrance campus. I am honored to invite the chairman of the Yad Vashem Directorate, Mr. Avner Shalev.
Her Excellency, the Ambassador of Canada to Israel, Lyons, and of course the representative of the Asper, Gail Asper, President of the Asper Foundation, Mo, our dear friend, who is the Executive Director still for many years, Dorit Novak, our Director General, Shaya Ben Yehuda, Director of International Affairs, וידידתנו מישראל. We're not too many here, but the quality is very important, really. And we have gathered to mention, I think, a very meaningful and important endeavor, Gail. It started 2001, and I can tell you informally that everyone was afraid from the new millennium, what it will be, how we can confront all the changes. You know, the world was bubbling around, and we had a great development plan for Yad Vashem 2001. So we said we shall go over 2000 and we shall continue the big challenge of actually building and developing Yad Vashem to the new challenges of the new millennium. And it was 2001 that your father and mother knocked on my door. It was their initiative. They came to Jerusalem, they came to Yad Vashem, and your father presented them, Easy, Israel, and he says, I have a vision, I have a dream. I'm fulfilling many other dreams in Canada. And I read a bit when he came about many endeavors and projects and a very unique and active person and the family members. At that time, you have been part of those projects and the vision. But the vision was, two aspects were there. One, he understood that for the main reason that we are working, the main goal, the main objective, to try and build a group of educators that can influence and build something that will change the responsibilities and the knowledge that youngsters have, which is very essential for the new millennium. And it cannot be done without the group of good professionals that will lead in each community and country. And we have to build them, to educate or to support them, to share our experiences. It's very essential. And he came with the idea, he understood it very deeply. The other one was part of his vision to build a major museum in Canada. To be frank with you, can I? He told me, I want a museum that deals mainly with the history of the Shoah museum, kind of a Shoah museum. He didn't know exactly what kind of, but the end idea was human rights and the values, human values that we have to stick and enforce and convince large communities that are so essential for our life and building. And I told him, okay, we are here. We can share it. So at that time, actually, the first seeds were planted. And as a good businessman, he told how we are going to do it. And I said, I don't know. The idea was to build a kind of a foundation that we should share. And he told me, okay, it will be a good sum of money on my side, your side. So we said, okay, let's collect the money and we should do whatever we can here in Israel. And he says, no, we should do much better in Canada on our side. And he was right. Because, yes, we keep the value, because you has the responsibility for your. But we are keeping with you. And the idea was actually to do something which is unique. We were on the way to build a group of professionals, not just teachers, but teachers that will have a special interest and a lot of knowledge and a deep understanding of the subject matter, the history of the Shoah, and what does it mean for our life nowadays. And we thought that you cannot push those education experts in each community without a group of professionals they will identify with the subject matter, and they will see themselves as professionals in this field. Not to be a teacher of history, but to be a teacher of specifically events of the Shoah. It is a big change. And we were on the way. And actually, and the people who are doing it, some of them are here. We wanted that the leading, I think, elements, human beings, educators in each community will be part of this group. At the end of the day, we have to enlarge the group, and the world will know that there is a group of professionals who are totally dedicated to the subject matter. And we have to do it internationally. So this was the master plan. And here came the Asper Foundation, and we said, we are going with you. And this is, I think, the great part of this project that started actually immediately afterwards in 2002. And we could build along the way the conferences of the top professionals, and to create their identity from the professional point of view. They are the leading power in their communities. And we have to do it internationally with many institutions and many to bring the teachers of the teachers, the leading part of the communities, and we did it. And you know, the biannual conference of those group of professionals who are leading the world in this field, and they are coming to Jerusalem to sit together with us, to share experience, to get more knowledge, to speak about the dilemmas that we have to confront, and so on and so forth. And you have been there, behind, pushing, enabling us to do it, which is, I think, a great achievement, really a great achievement that was achieved gradually, systematically, professionally along the way, starting from 2002, and we are continuing. And we have to confront, new challenges right now, because the subject matter, unfortunately, is more needed nowadays than years ago, because expressions of intolerance, expressions of xenophobia, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and so on and so forth are spreading all over. Unfortunately, we couldn't dream that this will be the situation on the ground in many, many societies and countries, not only in Europe, but very deeply the developments are taking place in Europe, and we can speak a lot about Poland, about Hungary, about other states, and Rachel is here. She is the director, and many others. And we must do whatever we can with regard to this group of leading professionals in each community that can do the most in their environments. And this is the essence of what you have been done together with us, and those are the achievements, and this is the importance of this unique project. And I'm sure that we shall continue together because the need is there, the knowledge is growing and developing, and we can promise you only that we shall do our best, and the people are here, or some of them, or many of them, to meet the people, to work with them, to take from them, and to provide whatever we can do. We are close to the very soon coming meeting of Ephraim, 350?
373.
73, you see?
373.
Teachers of teachers, and leading professionals from all over the world. This is the importance of this kind of a meeting, you know it. Without our ability to cement the connections and to build up the professional ability, we are not doing the job. And there will be, we shall continue, and we shall do it. So I'm standing here to recognize your support, to thank you, really all many, 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 many professional teachers. When I left my office, I asked Yossi, we have hundreds of letters from senior teachers who are part of this experience, and they say again and again, I couldn't believe this experience that we are going through in Yad Vashem is a life-changing experience. And when we made a real survey, we know it seriously, and we didn't do it, but American universities and other institutions in Israel, the superlative of the impact of this process is unbelievable. So probably we are doing something rightly, and we have to continue. So it's I think you are privileged by this kind of achievement. I want to thank you on behalf of really, really tens of thousands who are affected by those efforts. And of course, my colleagues in Yad Vashem and myself, because it's more than a business relationship. It's not at all. It's really friendly. You know more. And always, it's a pleasure, unique pleasure, to sit down and to talk and to discuss. And right now, you know it well, I don't know if the public knows it, you are trying to taking a huge, I didn't mention the museum at the end of the day that you completed, and that it took a decade, you know, from 2002 to 2000, no, yes? 12 years, yeah, you're right.
Who's counting?
You're counting every month. I know well because we had many talks about it. And finally, it's a very important museum that has become one of the national museums in Canada. I think 5 or 6 national museums, something like this. Number 5, I'm correct. And it's a very important museum, and many are visiting. It's a museum for human rights. The Holocaust has a chapter there. Maybe the dream was a bit larger, but at the end of the day, it's a very important institution that has a lot to say from the educational point of view. And now you are about to take another challenge. I don't know if the public know, to try build a unique museum for the Jewish people in Tel Aviv. You got the best plot in Tel Aviv, not far away from Reading, and Huldaidi is behind you, as we know. I was asked a bit to share my experience, and I hope that you will go forward, raise the needed means for it. It's a huge challenge, but it's part of your experience, part of your life, the family, others, Mo. So let's hope that you will implement also this unique dream, okay, and vision. So again, thank you very much on behalf of so many. All the best to you.
Her Excellency, Ambassador Deborah Lyons, has served in Canada's diplomatic corps for nearly 2 decades in countries as varied as Japan, the United States, Afghanistan, and most recently, Israel. A native of New Brunswick with hands-on experience in the world of business and management, the ambassador has been awarded for her exemplary role in encouraging states and assisting civil societies to advance democracy and human rights. In the year and a half since her posting here in Israel, Ambassador Lyons has forged strong ties with our nation's leaders, citizens and communities, including Holocaust survivors and their families. She is a frequent and welcome bat bayit at Yad Vashem, and we are grateful for her attendance today at this event, highlighting the bond between Israel and Canada. Ambassador Lyons, bavakasha.
Boker Tov. Good morning, everyone. Chairman of the magnificent Yad Vashem Directorate, Avner Shalev. Lovely to be here with you. It's always special to be at Yad Vashem. President of the Asper Foundation, Gail, lovely to see you again, and Executive Director Mo. I've just spent a couple of wonderful days with them in Winnipeg. If you haven't been to Winnipeg, you have to go. Not only is it the home of Canada's Human Rights Museum, it's the home of an incredibly vibrant Jewish community with a great heritage and of a wonderful, warm, urban community that I think represents the best of Canada. Director General Novak and Director Ben Yehuda, great to be here with you as well. For me to be at Yad Vashem is, in a strange way, I suppose, a little bit like coming home. Every mission that comes from Canada comes to Yad Vashem. We might not have the time to see a minister. We might not have the time to do various site visits, but every one of our political and business and community leaders must come, want to come to Yad Vashem. So it's always special to be here. And it's my pleasure to participate in this ceremony that's honoring the Asper Foundation's unwavering commitment to the Holocaust memory and Holocaust education. As Chairman Shavlev said, needed more now than ever before. And it's great to see that this partnership is 12, 13, 14 years old and many more years to come. Holocaust memory and education, I want you to know, are also strong commitments of the Government of Canada. Our wonderful Prime Minister Trudeau and our very active Minister of Foreign Affairs, Chrystia Freeland, I and my colleagues are dedicated to honoring and remembering the 6 million Jews who were cruelly murdered by the Nazi regime and its collaborators. Canada's contribution to Holocaust education benefit and align fully with the Asper International Holocaust Studies Program and the International School for Holocaust Studies here at Yad Vashem. We are an active member of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. My good friend, Ambassador Levine, our ambassador to Spain, has just succeeded another good friend of mine, Ambassador Wyszynski, who was our ambassador to Norway, as Canada's representative to the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. And I say this because I want you to know that we do not assign just anybody to this important task. We choose very carefully the ambassador who represents us at the IHRA. They must be very active, very vocal, very committed. We are also a major donor to UNESCO's program for Holocaust education. And while UNESCO's member countries, have sometimes taken anti-Israel positions, we consider our position at UNESCO to be particularly important, to continue to work hard to counter these by strengthening the professional staff at UNESCO and its program that honors the Jewish people. For all of Canada's important work internationally, it is absolutely crucial, though, to continue to work domestically within our own country on Holocaust education. And we are doing just that. Prime Minister Trudeau announced last month that he would offer soon, in the fall, in accordance with the request from our Jewish community, he would offer an official apology on behalf of all Canadians to the Jewish refugees fleeing Europe aboard the ill-fated MS St. Louis. These 900 refugees, as they were docked just off of Cuba, were denied asylum, yes, to the U.S., but very sadly and very unfortunately for us, also denied asylum in Canada. And several hundred of them would subsequently be killed in the Holocaust after the St. Louis was forced back to Europe. This is a burden that we have to bear as Canadians. But we are openly declaring this as part of our history. It is part of our history books. We have quite an excellent exhibit at our War Museum in Ottawa so that Canadians can learn more about this period and move on from it and understand our role in making sure people are protected in every instance. It's a moment that we have not forgotten, and the callousness of that time has guided Canada's approach to the treatment of refugees ever since. From the acceptance of thousands of Holocaust survivors after the war through to the Vietnamese boat people, and more recently to those that fled the Syrian civil war in the past years. I'm also proud to tell you that Canadian Parliament recently decided that every May in Canada will be Jewish Heritage Month. May of 2018, this past month, was such an important time when we marked with many events and ceremonies the great contributions of Canada's Jewish citizens and Jewish heritage all around the world. And to expand on that even further, my embassy is circulating in Israel right now a mobile exhibition on the Canadian Jewish experience. The exhibition is a set of very colorful panels that describe, I think your dad is there actually, Gail, that describe and show the many successes and the many leaders from our Jewish communities across Canada. And later this month, we will have the exhibition on display at the Knesset, where I will speak at a special event showcasing the Canadian Jewish community. We're also looking forward to the next event of the International School for Holocaust Studies at Yad Vashem, the 2018 International Conference on Holocaust Education being held later this month. And I can assure you we will be working with you to make sure the messages from that are being communicated to Canadians and to people around the world. And I'll make sure that the ambassadorial community is paying close attention. So hold me accountable for that. On a personal and a professional note, I just want to emphasize for all of you how, for myself as a diplomat, your work, as the chairman said earlier, and I want to echo his sentiment, your work is more vital than ever. I had not expected that at my ripe old age, after 20 years as a diplomat, that I would find our world so uncertain, so threatened by hate speech that's being promoted by political leaders. Who would have imagined? Where Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, various forms of racism seem to be infiltrating so many countries that we thought had advanced to a higher level of human recognition. Your work in talking about the Holocaust and teaching about the Holocaust is more profound than ever before as you guide people through what was, without question, one of the greatest of human tragedies. And I was mentioning to the chairman and your director earlier how incredible my first experience was here at Yad Vashem, and each subsequent experience. as your guides, took us through our own pain and agony as we walked through the museum, but took us through it in an intellectual and emotional way that helped us deal with the pain and agony we were feeling and helped us move on to another place, a constructive place, a desire for action. It was striking. So the teaching you do with your guides, their approach, the teaching that takes place in your school is more critical now than ever before. And for us in Canada, as we deal with our own very difficult history with our Indigenous people, as we talk openly now about forgiveness and redemption, reconciliation, and moving forward, we're understanding how hard it is to forgive, to understand, to engage, and we are a country that is known for tolerance and inclusivity. And even we, as so many around the world now, are struggling with how we take that shared experience and move to a higher level. I'm not going to quote perfectly, but I have to quote a young woman who, during March of the Living, recently is sitting looking at some of the camps and says, very profoundly, as only a 16-year-old can, it was amazing to see that as our hearts were breaking, our hearts were also growing. So I think that the work you do as educators, the work that you do in particular on the Holocaust to take us through this experience in a way that we come out the other side, much in the same way the architect who built Yad Vashem does physically as he takes us to that beautiful serenity at the end, looking out onto Jerusalem and the trees. I think that you help us find a place for our hearts to grow and for the wisdom to take us to a much higher level of human communication, human understanding, human acceptance, human forgiveness, and that very important reconciliation. So more now than ever before, we need what you do, and I'm very happy to have our embassy partner with you in any way that we can. And Gail and Mo, I am incredibly proud of what the Asper family has done in Canada. They represent, again, the incredible philanthropists, big hearts that we have in our Jewish Canadian community. And you must all come to Winnipeg. Maybe you want to come in the summer, not the dead of winter, but come in any case. Yeah, you can all stay at Gail's and see the Canadian Museum of Human Rights and see how we, in our own Canadian experience, have struggled as we've tried to move forward as a nation of tolerance and inclusivity. And know that we're all on this journey together. But with the Asper Foundation and with the incredible staff here at Yad Vashem, I think there's hope for the world. I think our hearts can grow. Thank you.
Shmuel Gogol was educated in Janusz Korczak's orphanage in the Warsaw Ghetto. Korczak, a well-known educator and pediatrician, gave him his first harmonica as a birthday gift. When Gogol was deported to Auschwitz, he was stripped of all his belongings, including the harmonica, but he managed to obtain another one from a fellow prisoner in exchange for a portion of food. At Auschwitz, Gogol was assigned to the camp orchestra, and he vowed that if he survived the Holocaust, the harmonica would remain an integral part of his life. Gogol survived and immigrated to Israel. In 1963, he established the Ramat Gan Municipal Children's Harmonica Orchestra. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Ramat Gan Municipality Children's Harmonica Orchestra in memory of Shmuel Gogol, accompanied on the piano by musical director Alex Rice and conducted by Karen Olshel, with their performance of a medley of Jewish songs. Dr. Israel and Ruth Babs Asper believed that philanthropy was a driving force behind positive change in people's quality of life. For this reason, they formed the Asper Foundation in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, in 1983, to build upon their and the Asper family's philanthropic objectives. From the outset, the Asper Foundation has undertaken, developed and supported major initiatives in the areas of Jewish charity, as well as culture, education, community development and human rights locally, nationally and internationally. The Asper Foundation, today helmed by Israel and Ruth's children David, Gail and Leonard Asper, remains renowned for successful initiatives in Canada and around the world, supporting many areas of need, among them arts and culture, community development, human rights, literacy and education, journalism and communication studies, media and healthcare. Gail Asper was born in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and obtained her BA and LLB from the University of Manitoba in 1981 and 1984, respectively. After receiving her call to the Bar of Nova Scotia, Gail practiced corporate and commercial law with Goldberg and Thompson in Halifax, Nova Scotia, before joining CanWest Global Communications Corp. in 1989 as corporate secretary and legal counsel. In 2002, she became the managing director of the Asper Foundation, and in 2003, following the death of her father, Israel Asper, she became the foundation's president. In addition to supporting many Jewish and Israeli community projects, the Asper Foundation spearheaded the creation of the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, which was realized after over a decade of Gail's hard work. Today, among many initiatives and ventures, Gail is leading the efforts of the Asper Foundation to establish the brand new World's Jewish Museum in Tel Aviv. I am honored to invite Ms. Gail Asper, President of the Asper Foundation.
Well, thank you, Jane, and welcome everybody, our honored guests, Avner and Ambassador Lyons. Thank you so much for taking the time, all of you, to be here this morning. Thank you, Ambassador, for also being very flexible in your schedule and hearing about this event and making an effort to be here. Your words were incredibly moving. You are a great ambassador, actually, a great salesperson. The ambassador and I just met 2 or 3 weeks ago, actually, on Mother's Day. She was in Winnipeg. She could have been relaxing. It was a beautiful day, but instead she insisted on spending her Mother's Day touring the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. And we had it was a very fitting thing for us to be doing on a Mother's Day, I think, thinking about how we can go forward and make the world a better place for our children and my hopeful grandchildren, your existing grandchildren. But what we're doing here is actually marking an anticipated 20 years of partnership with Yad Vashem. And I love seeing that picture of my mom and dad. They were absolutely the best people. We were very, very blessed to have such thoughtful, passionate Canadians, Zionists as parents. And you can just see both of their minds spinning and turning, thinking, what they can do to help advance the world of education on Holocaust education and the importance. Their hearts were so committed to this cause. And I will tell you that, we are so impressed with the team, Jane and everybody here, the dedicated team at Yad Vashem, and we just wanted to take this opportunity for us to express our gratitude. I first visited, thanks to Mom and Dad, I first visited Yad Vashem 44 years ago in 1974, a year after you were saving the country in that incredible 73 horrifying war. But my parents had the genius to bring my brothers and me to Israel back in 74 for our very first trip. And I have to tell you that the trip to Yad Vashem was one of my most impactful moments and experiences of my life. And amazingly, much of what I learned about the Holocaust to this day that I remember came from that initial visit to the museum. And that was before we had the brand new museum, but it was an incredible experience. I was 14 years old, and this was really my introduction to the Holocaust. And some of those visual images, those moments, those heart-opening moments of stories stay with me today. And it's why I am a firm believer in the transformational impact that a well-done museum can have. And people always ask, why do we love museums? And if that stayed with me 44 years later, that's the answer. Now, I remember one of the conversations I had with my dad after he first told me that he wanted to support Yad Vashem. He was a devourer of news, whether it was in Canada or around the world. And he really realized the need for impactful Holocaust education. And he also knew that to do anything, you have to have a great partner. And in deciding with whom to partner, he was in particular mightily impressed with the quality of leadership, frankly, of Avner. That's who we first connected with. And as a guy who had started up a business, he knew that the only way, you can't do everything. You have to have effective leadership, effective executives, whether it's in a business, whether it's in a not-for-profit. And that was Avner. And he also loved your museum model, which to me is the gold standard of museum models. Yes, you have to have the exhibits, but you absolutely have to have world-class respected research to keep the exhibits fresh. And most importantly, you need to have the education component. So your model is the one that we're using for the Human Rights Museum, very early stages, but you have perfected it, and it is absolutely the right one, and it's why Yad Vashem is one of the most respected museums in the world. So yes, my parents came in 2001, not long after the new international school was opened. This was before the new museum was constructed. And the way he says it, it was that you and Shia shared your vision with him and explained what was going on in the world. And they left understanding that the need to combat anti-Semitism and apathy through Holocaust education. And they were already definitely very committed to Holocaust remembrance and education in Canada, because we'd already started talking about the Human Rights Museum at that point. So it was a perfect opportunity to partner with Yad Vashem and establish the International Studies Program in 2002. And yes, 2002, they also got to take part in their first, and I think probably it was for my dad, it was his last opportunity to take part in the Educators Conference in 2002. Tragically, Dad dropped out of a heart attack in 2003, but he was a larger-than-life character, and his soul just plopped right into my mom and my brothers and me, and to Mo, of course, who'd been working with him for 4 years, and we were able to carry on with his vision. And so it is incredible that every 2 years since that time, and shortly coming up, all of these Holocaust educators come from around the world and learn from the best and brightest how to effectively teach the greatest tragedy of our time to today's students. Now, what I guess back it was 2002 would have been, we are now 16 years ago. This is what my dad had to say. The Asper Foundation is proud to play an integral role in supporting Yad Vashem, a world-renowned institution respected not only for commemorating the victims of the Holocaust, but for imparting the lessons of the Holocaust and educating people worldwide to help ensure that the rally cry, "Never Again," refers not only to Jews, but to all peoples. So that was what he said back in 2002, and those words hold true today as well. As the ambassador said, studying and understanding the Holocaust continues, sadly, to be essential for Jews, but also for non-Jews, because the scourge of anti-Semitism never seems to disappear for long. We know also that human rights abuses and genocides are also being perpetrated against other peoples today, and we believe that by understanding the Holocaust, the world is in a much better position to prevent those abuses. And this is one of the underpinning beliefs of all of our activity in this field, from the creation of this program, which we have now pledged to continue for another 5 years, to the development of the Canadian Museum for Human Rights that you've heard about. What we've learned is that the second of our Holocaust study programs initiatives is our own education program that was the catalyst for creating the Human Rights Museum. This was, since 1997, our education program that we began in Canada is Canada's largest educational initiative, reaching over 14,000 high school students and chaperones in over 200 cities and communities across Canada. And that program aims to promote understanding and sensitize students of diverse backgrounds to the consequences of racism. So what this program entails is an 18-hour education program, And then after after that program is completed in Holocaust education, originally the kids were going to Washington, and now these kids from across Canada come to Winnipeg to visit the museum and to take part in all sorts of activities relating to human rights education and Holocaust education. And yes, that trip was the catalyst for the trip to Washington was the catalyst for starting our own human rights museum in Canada, when we realized that Canada actually didn't have any kind of education facility that could inspire our future human rights leader to take personal responsibility for advancing human rights. And by the way, the Holocaust Gallery in the museum is the largest Holocaust gallery in Canada. There are Holocaust museums in Canada, but this is the largest one. And although it's small in square footage, the programming that's coming out of that is terrific. And the Azrieli Foundation of Canada just did a fabulous event there at the museum with Holocaust survivors, and several hundred people showed up. And it was actually being held on the night of one of our Jets games in the Stanley Cup Finals. So it was competing with, a very important thing for we Canadians, but it was that important that people came out. And I heard, I was out of town, I was not able to attend, but it was a fabulous event. So it's also a platform for great Holocaust education program, which we know is extremely important. So we're very, very important with the success that the Human Rights Museum is having. And the more people sing its praises, thank you, Ambassador, the more people attend, the more people will learn the lessons of the Holocaust. The goal of that museum really was to inspire every single visitor to take the lessons of the Holocaust, which is that of personal responsibility. We can't just let our governments take the lead. We can't let rock stars. We learn in the Holocaust Museum, we learn at Yad Vashem that it's the actions of the individuals, those heroes. It's the Miep Van Gies who sheltered the Anne Frank family. It's the ordinary people who do extraordinary things that prevent the human rights abuses of today, and we need those human rights defenders. So we all are soldiers in that battle. So in view of the current challenges in Holocaust education, rising anti-Semitism and racism around the world, the Asper International Holocaust Studies Program will remain committed, together with Yad Vashem, to produce innovative programming to inspire and engage participants all around the world. And Avner, and Shaya, and Dorit, and Ayal, and Jane, and Ephraim, and Moshe, and Miriam, you are the super team with which every donor dreams of working with. As I said, we are not here to be thanked. We are here to thank you, and we look forward to working with you for many, many years to come. Avner has been so helpful and so kind and so reassuring and generous with his time in everything we've ever done. When we talked about the Human Rights Museum in Canada, he was right there with us. We are partners with our programming and our exhibits in Canada. You are equally as generous with our new vision for the World's Jewish Museum, which we could clone you and put you all over the world, but you certainly are doing an incredible job here. Keep up the great work, and we are proud to be your partner. Thank you.
Oh, I shouldn't have let you sit down, Gail. Thank you. But I now invite you back, along with Mr. Mo Levy, to join Gail and Mr. Avner Shalev, Mr. Shaya Ben Yehuda, Mr. Dorit Novak, to present you all with a small token of our appreciation.
Yes, this is our privilege and honor to present this unique token.
Wow.
It's a key to the mind and heart and to Yad Vashem.
Thank you. This should just start going to our front hall. And
Let me read what is written here, Yad Vashem, to the Asper Foundation with gratitude and appreciation for their continued friendship and their dedication to Holocaust education.
Bravo.
Thank you. Mo Levy is about to sit down, but the Human Rights Museum would never have been possible without Mo's indefatigable, optimistic efforts. And Shai here in Israel, we could not do what we do, so thank you to Shai. And thank thank you to this amazing choir. I have never heard more stunningly fabulous music and performed by harmonicas. Who knew? You guys are amazing, so thank you. That's one of the most exciting moments of my life. Thank you.
the unveiling of the donors plaque, I'm honoured to invite Gail Asper and Mo Levy, together with Avner Shalev and Her Excellency Ambassador Deborah Lyons, to come forward, please.
All right, should we pull it?
One, two, three.
The Asper International Holocaust Studies Programme, endowed by the Asper Foundation, Winnipeg, Canada, April 2002, 2 decades of commitment and partnership.